My name's Jeramia, and I'm an addict.
Jeramia.
Like to just say thanks to the home group members, David and Chelsea for reaching out and asking me to come speak. I ain't nobody special. I ain't done nothing special. The only thing that I've done is just acquired a little bit of time of not using. In our literature it says, the only required for membership is the desire to stop using. That's what I had in the beginning, was a desire to stop using. Not because I thought it was a great idea, because I wanted to get, the courts and, the ex-wife, the in-laws, everybody off my back, so I could just go back on to being a dirtball, because that's what it was. It's funny to me, here I sit, 20-some years later, in the town that I grew up in, speaking in the NA meeting. It's just funny how life, has, I don't know what's planned for me, but this is what I do know. I started getting high, and I loved it, man. I loved the way it made me feel, right? And if I could get high today without all the crazy-ass consequences and insanity that comes with it, it might be a thought in my head, but, today it's not. Through this program and stuff like that, I've got a life that that I've built, that I've earned, that I've put blood and sweat into, and it's just crazy. I was a generational drug addict. That shit came down from, my family, influences, friends, stuff like that, and I thought that was the only thing that I was good at, was just getting high and going off. And it was fun for a while. Then it slowly became into trouble. Then it became maintenance. I did a lot of you hear about geographical changes. I thought if I would go here or go there, you know what I mean, and maybe not do my drug of choice, just drink myself till I got sick or something, it would be better, but it never was, because I was always there with myself. So I qualify, just like all you qualify, right? I'm here to share a clean message of recovery, right? And that's what I got today. And in the beginning, I was a retread. I didn't get this shit done on the first try. It took me about a year and a half or so of just coming in and out and trying to figure it out. And I can just remember when I was just I gotta do something different. I'm done. And when I figured that shit out for myself, when I wanted to do it for myself and not nobody else, that's when it started clicking. And as I would go to meetings and stuff like that, I'd always hear people say, you got to get a sponsor, and you don't ever have to use, even if you want to, all these the acronyms or weird sayings or shit like that, and that shit was intimidating to me. I saw people getting up and getting clean time, key tags and hugs and shit, and I thought they were full of shit and lying, because I couldn't do that, so how can anybody else do it? If people were getting up, going out to have a cigarette or going to the bathroom, I thought people were getting high, because that's what I would do, I'd dip out real quick, go get adjusted and come back in and sit down and think everything was okay. And so I was really biased to this program in the very beginning, because I was closed-minded. I thought I knew everything. Come to find out, I didn't know shit. And I still don't know much. But what I do know is what I was what I was taught and learned. And you know, like in the beginning, like for me, when I made the commitment and the decision to do something different and fully work this program, as of right now, the hardest part of my recovery was finding another dude, right? Going dude shopping to find a dude and ask him for help, right? That was the hardest part of my recovery. You know, like, I wasn't really, like socially acceptable, you know, when I first got into the rooms. I was still pretty wound up, pretty tight, high strung. You know, you hear the voices. You think people are talking about you, all that shit. You know, I had it all, man. You know, I was in that like meth-induced contused or whatever the fuck the word, psychosis. Thank you. I'm getting all nervous. But like, you know, I had it all, man, and I just didn't think that anybody would really give a shit to try and help me, because I never really tried to help anybody, you know, except for myself to stay well. And you know, I found this dude, and you know, I listened to him speak and stuff like that. And when I came to the realization that I wanted him to be my sponsor, it was because he wasn't the coolest dude in the room. You know, he was definitely the biggest, but you know, he wasn't the coolest. Like, you know, he didn't have like this super hot girl or fancy cars or fancy clothes on. But what he did have was, when he spoke and when he talked, you know, and when he shared, like, he had this straight, calm demeanor, you know, in what he said. You know, and he was talking about like exciting things in life, you know, like becoming a grandpa and you know, winning some stuff in some court issues, you know, and then in a couple weeks later, he talked about how his mom found out that she had stage 4 cancer and stuff, and like he was upset and everything, but he was still real calm. And at that moment in time, that was the most attractive thing to me, because I was so sick and tired of the bipolarness of addiction, like all these extreme highs and lows. And you know, that's what was most attractive to me at the time. So in my mind, like, I went up to him and like just asked him to be my sponsor, but in reality, I kind of just bum rushed him, caught him in the corner, and I said, "You're sponsoring me." And he said, "Okay," and I turned around and walked away. You know, I was a little aggressive and intense, you know, because that's what, like, I didn't know then, but like my character attributes that kept me well, that kept me alive, you know, and stuff like that when I was out using, those instantly became my character defects when I decided to start working a program. And like, I had to flush everything. Like, everything I thought I knew, right? I just had to flush that shit down the toilet. And I think one of the greatest things that I picked up from early recovery was I don't get tested, right? Because I'm horrible at tests. Like, I had to take my CDL test, and like I failed the brake test like 5 times on the computer in the DMV. Like, no pressure, right? Like, nobody's standing there looking at me, but like I failed that thing 5 times, and I don't do well at tests. So I don't get tested, and you know, my higher power, the gods that I believe in, they don't test me, right? They give me the opportunity to learn, right? So if I go and do some sideways shit, right, I have the opportunity to learn from that. And today, my shit ain't so sideways as much as it was in early, you know, recovery, but I taught myself that I had the opportunity to learn, right? And then if I learned from that, I could stop the cycle of insanity, right? Because insanity, we do, you know, the same thing, expecting a different result. And you know, I think that made my recovery a little bit easier also. And then you know, I was like, you know, I went to treatment and stuff. I went to treatment a couple of different times, outpatient. You know, I went into inpatient once, and I remember like my counselor telling me like, out of you 10 guys, only one of you is gonna stay clean. And I'm kind of thick-headed, and I was like, fuck that. I'm gonna be the guy that proves you wrong. So there's gonna be two of us now, right? And so in early recovery, I latched on, and started doing what was suggested. I came to the end of my active addiction with a full-time job. I went through treatment and then came back out and had a full-time job. My life was a disaster. I got divorced while I was in treatment. My ex-wife gave my dog away. I sold my truck when I got out and got a different car and stuff. And like my life wasn't that great. Like these the actions of my life events had put me into a place, right, where I was just like, I'm cool, like things are going to change and everything. And so when I started working this program, I was really open-minded to it, right? Like I wasn't real worried about the fourth step, right? Like, having to talk about the shit that I've done and did, that really didn't bother me. The whole, like, trying to find a higher power really didn't bother me that much. Like I said, it was just coming to the realization that like I had to ask for help, right? Because I was so independent and I did everything on my own. So I got a sponsor, and I just started working the steps, meeting up with them once a week. We met up at this coffee shop that used to be over in Eugene that closed down, and we dove into it, and through working the steps and stuff like that, like I know today I know what I need to do to stay clean, right? Like I know where I need to go, like the obligations that I have, the responsibilities that I have, right? To help me stay clean and stuff like that. But working a program, that shit teaches me how to live clean, right? I had no adulting skills, right? I learned that from you guys, my sponsor, my hardcore four. That's what I call my support group, right? And I got my sponsor. I got the four guys that I depend on, and I got my old lady over there that helps me out every once in a while. But yeah, like, so I just started getting into the steps right off the bat, and things didn't change that quickly for me, right? I was starting to get frustrated. Like I was never on this pink cloud. Like some people have it, some people don't. Like I was just like, I realized like I needed to do some different shit, so I started doing that. And I was so used to the concept of instant gratification, right? I didn't know what that meant at the time, but like I would drink, I would use drugs, I would do whatever, right? And that shit changed me pretty quick, right? So after years and years of addiction, I got used to that instant gratification from doing these things, and like recovery didn't give me that instant gratification. So I was like getting a little frustrated and getting a little bit complexed about it. But I never gave up, after treatment, I went and moved into a recovery house, an Oxford house, and I was in there for about 2.5 years. And, like today, recovery, my life, and all that shit is awesome. Like I have a great time today. We go out, and we go camping. We go riding motorcycles. Like we just go out and we go to conventions, and shit like that. Like if I were not to have fun then like what's the point of everything? And today I can enjoy myself. Like I can live in my skin today. And today I'm able to practice unconditional love, right? And that shit blows my mind. Like I have unconditional love for all you guys in here. Regardless, you could come off sideways or something like that, right? Because you're my family, you know? Like, you're in recovery, you're going through the same shit that I'm going through, right? And like that reading was talking about, like, forgiving, and being able to forgive and stuff. Like, I can do that today, right? And, so about 3 years ago, I changed sponsors because I feel like my recovery is like constantly growing and changing and evolution and stuff like that, right? So at that moment, when this guy came into my life, he was celebrating 24 years, and his daughter sent him this text saying like, hey, I'm so grateful that you got into recovery, that you got clean, because you were able to, be there for me and my sisters, and like all this yada yada shit, right? And at that moment, like I was having a really hard time because I was still selfish and self-centered and self-seeking, to where like me spending time with my kids was really eating at me, and so like I asked that man to sponsor me, and he's like, yeah, cool, we can do that. You got to talk to, your old sponsor and stuff like that. Let him know that, like, you want to try doing something different. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so we went on for about a month or so, like sitting down talking. And he comes out like, did you talk to you talk to your sponsor? And I was like, no, I ain't called Bob yet. And he's like, man, you got to call him and let him know that, like, you want to do a little something different and everything. And like, I couldn't believe like how much fear I had around making that phone call, or having that conversation with that dude, because I thought he was going to be just so upset and irate and everything. And finally I was just like, hey, this is what I'd like to do. This is the reason why. And he gave me a big old hug, and he's like, dude, get it, man. Like, it's the most important thing is that I work my program of recovery to better myself, right? So if I tell the dudes that I sponsor at any moment in time, you catch some other cat that's really inspiring and you want to go do, what they got going on, as long as you fulfill your commitment with them, hey, I'd be an asshole to be upset for you telling me, hey, I want this dude to sponsor me, because it's not about me. What it is, it's about me carrying the message of recovery and helping helping another addict, because I can't keep what I have unless I freely give it away. So getting back to Rick, my sponsor that I have now, I was working with him, and I got into the 10th step, right, for like about the third or fourth time. And about this time I had probably, I was coming up probably real close to my 11 years. And we were doing that 10th step, and that unconditional love hit me upside the head. And that's when I had my spiritual awakening. That shit took me 11 years, you know what I mean? Because that's how bad and beat down, I had stuffed everything and stuff like that. So, our spirits awaken as I work these steps, right? But then at that moment in time, I was actually able to forgive myself for all the stupid shit that I'd done, and actually like, hey, I love you, bro. You know what I mean? And I'm pointing back at me. And then that shit's mind-blowing, right? It's mind-blowing that I can have unconditional love and forgiveness of myself. And, yeah, I mean, I might be a fucking idiot, but that shit just blows my mind. And I wasn't always like that, you know. When I lived in the recovery house, I was the only dude working, right? And I had 8 other roommates, and they were all having bills paid by mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, you know, because I got clean, you know, in my 30s, you know, came out of treatment, you know, and these guys are in their early 20s and stuff like that. So, so I'm working, and you know, I got about a year clean, and you know, I'm working, I'm doing recovery, and I'm burning everything at both ends, and I can feel like I'm gonna snap and lose my shit. So I talked to my boss, you know, and I was like, hey, I just need a couple days off, you know, or I'm gonna lose my shit. And you know, at the time I was a chef at the hospital, and they just opened a new hospital over there, Riverbend, and I was like, you know, everybody knows, like everybody in my life, who I work with, you know, stuff like that, people that are close to me know I'm in recovery, right? Like, I ain't gonna say shit about anybody else, but like my anonymity, everybody knows, right? Because that's accountability for me. Like the dudes that I work with know that I don't party and I don't drink, you know, that I go to meetings and stuff like that. My family knows and stuff like that, you know. So I told my boss, like, I'm really gonna lose my shit, and he's like, hey, take a couple days off, right? And so at the time, we had some friends that owned this little hippie donut place and stuff like that, and so I got a bunch of donuts. I bought some nice coffee, bought some creamer. I went out, bought some brand new fishing gear because I was gonna go fishing for the steelies in wintertime and stuff like that, right? So I put all that shit up on the counter. You know, me and the girl, we go lay down for a little bit and go to bed, and I get up in the middle of the night, and I go out there and out into the living or to the kitchen, and motherfuckers ate all my donuts, right? They didn't even leave one, dude. They ate a fucking dozen donuts, man. And they cracked open my creamer and shit, right? And I instantly lost my shit, man. I was like, I'm gonna stab these motherfuckers, dude. Right? I couldn't believe how hurt and like violated I felt. Like I was gonna violate everybody, dude, in that house, man. And like I can remember Thalassa catching me in the hallway, right? And I'm in my underwear and I'm just fucking sobbed out, just crying. And she's like, there's only probably like 3 times in the last 12 years we've been together that she said, hey, maybe you should call your sponsor, and this is one of them. And so I call my sponsor, right? And they happen to be at some convention or something, right? And then it's like 1:32 in the morning, and I call him, and all I can hear is this, right? Because they're at this dance, and I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. I'm losing my shit. And he's like, all right, hold on. So he gets to where I can talk and hear him, and I'm standing out fucking in the snow, right, in my underwear crying, like these dudes ate my fucking donuts, man. And they cracked open my creamer and drank my coffee. And I never forget this, man. The dude said, hey, did you put your name on it? And I'm like, do I need to put my name on it? And he's like, you're in communal living, dude. You know what I mean? And like, fuck, dude. You know, it took, you know, it's a great story now, but like, so through working a program, I knew not to go stab those guys. I knew not to go get high, you know, or crack open a beer or whatever, right? Because that shit wasn't going to answer anything. And from that moment forward, I learned that I needed to identify my personal shit if I wanted it to be personal, right? If I didn't care if you ate some of my cereal, I wouldn't have to worry about that, right? But if I had my own little like, private stash, then I, you know, need to put my name on it or whatever. So that is a lesson that I learned from, right? That shit wasn't a test. So, you know, recovery's awesome, dude. Like, I wouldn't change any of it, you know. I wouldn't change my past. I wouldn't change the stupid shit that I did, the mean things I did, you know, the hurtful things that I did, because that wouldn't make me the person I'm sitting right here. Now, do I have regret on some of my actions? Yeah, right? Do I have shame on some of my actions? Not anymore, right? Because that's what the, 6th and 7th and 8th step are for, right? Making amends and stuff like that. When it was time for me to make my amends to my mom and my stepdad, fuck, man, that was like the hardest one. It's the one I feared the most, and it took me, I don't know, 2 or 3 months after I did that step to actually come back over here and make amends to him. And that shit was pretty emotional with me and my mom. And I went to go make amends to my stepdad, and my stepdad told me to fuck off. And I was like, damn, that hurt, dude. But hey, that's his thing, dude. So after having about 2.5, 3 years, he finally came around and said, hey, you know what, I'm really proud of you. Sorry for saying what I said, but you had pissed me off really bad for a long time. And I was like, hey, that's your right. Like, you feel how you feel, man. So today, I try to keep my side of the road clean as possible. Because I can't stand that word sorry. That fucking word is just worthless, you know what I mean? Like, today, I can apologize for my actions and how I behave and how I represent myself, and, recovery's great, dude. I had the opportunity to go in October to the first ever men's convention down there in San Jose, and that shit was like really badass, you know what I mean? They got that coming up in October, and it's going to be up here in Portland, and it's called the Band of Brothers. I'm going to say this because, the dudes talk to the dudes and the women talk to the women. So guys, if you ain't ever been to, something like that, try and get up there and get to it, man. That shit's life-changing. So yeah, hey, get a sponsor, work the steps, service work. Service work, like, there was probably 3 to 5. I had, I don't know, 4 or 5 different, like intense service positions. I was like the chair of area. I was like the merchandise chair for our local camp out. I was the merchandise entertainment chair for a committee. You know what I mean? Like I think my addiction was starting to play off into my service work type thing. But now today, I just do, I hold the keys to my home group, right? Letting some of the newer people that are home group members, take over. So I'm just the dude that unlocks the door now. I got, I'm the food dude, the superfood dude for the men's retreat that we're gonna have up there in May. And I think me and a couple other people are gonna tackle the entertainment chair for the entertainment committee for the convention coming up in next year, 2021. So yeah, and then sponsoring guys, dude. Being a service. Like, the most help that I've gotten is helping dudes go through the steps, right? Or picking up that phone when somebody's calling. Because, I've got 11 and a half years clean, man, and I'm still selfish, self-centered, and self-seeking, right? I mean, most of us are, but I am, and by allotting time to do step work with those guys and picking up the phone, I tell them, like, it's just as important for you when you're sitting in your shit to call me, because you don't know, I could be sitting in my own shit, right? And by you calling helps me just as much as it helps you. So, yeah, recovery's rad. I'm grateful that like I have the opportunity to be clean, and man, I hope you guys got something out of that, dude.
Awesome.